Good morning, all my active, warmed up, refreshed patriots. I haven't been following the Tokyo Olympics at all. So I thought this headline from Ground News was particularly apt. Tokyo Olympics closing ceremony marks end of behind closed doors games. Like I said, very apt in that, like anything that happens behind closed doors, I haven't been keeping up with this at all. I couldn't tell you how the U.S. did during the Olympics, how other nations did during the Olympics. I did see brief news headlines from time to time about how the U.S. failed to win this or that gold, but I think they wound up being not only the number one medal winner, but the number one gold medal winner. But don't hold me to that because, like I said, I really haven't been keeping up with it. In fact, until I saw this headline this morning, I didn't know the Olympics were over. I think this has been a disaster in Olympics for everybody involved, but particularly for those poor Japanese people, the people from Tokyo in particular. Let's take a look. Ooh, that isn't very good, is it? The Tokyo Olympics primed to lose $30 billion with no way to recoup losses. This from the New York Post. Now, the New York Post goes on to say that Tokyo expected to make money from sponsorships, but most of the sponsors pulled out due to the Wuhan flu. They also expected to make money from licensing agreements, particularly TV. Now, TV licensing agreements have been going up and up and up, and it was reported that Tokyo was, well, I don't know how much of the money goes to Tokyo, but there was supposed to be $5 billion payout for the licensing agreements. I think the way it goes is this, is that the city involved gets 90% of the cut from this money, and the International Olympic Committee gets 10%. So that's not even very good. And then, of course, ticket sales, which were non-existent, and increased tourism, which was non-existent. So I would say a $30 billion loss, well, that's probably conservative figures. Now, I told you about that $5 billion that was supposed to be made from watching the Olympics, but take a look at this. This is from MSN. Tokyo Olympic viewership and ratings hit lows as Games' final days loom. Viewership for NBC's coverage of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics continued to fall as Thursday evening delivered both the lowest rated and least watched day. Now, what I haven't told you is that the cost for licensing agreements for the Olympic Games keeps on going up and up and up. I have a feeling that viewer ratings are not falling only in the US but worldwide, but I have no way to check that. That's just an assumption on my part. You see, it's not just the Olympics that people are starting to turn away from. It's all sports, particularly in the US. Let's take a look at a team that I loved this team growing up. It's my hometown team. This is from Flipboard. Report in stadium talks. Bills will argue that not moving should be valued as a contribution to the region. Buffalo's population has been falling year after year for many a year. And, well, I've seen different estimates of the cost of a new stadium in Buffalo, anywhere from $1 billion to $1.4 billion. And you know who's going to pay for this stadium? The taxpayer, the good citizens of not only Buffalo, but They're trying to pawn this off on the entire state as well. So, with TV ratings falling, with revenues declining, with fans not showing up at the stadium like they used to, would it really be such a bad thing for the Bills to leave Western New York? I know they've been in Western New York since they were founded. But if building a stadium was financially viable and profitable, wouldn't the Buffalo Bills team itself want in on that action? Wouldn't they be saying, hey, I'll fund it. We're going to make money on this. But they're not. They're saying, we want the citizens, the taxpayers of Western New York, maybe the taxpayers of all of New York State, to fund this thing so we can play there and make a fortune. We don't care that people who will never go to see a game, who don't support the Bills, will be paying for it for the next 25 or 50 years, as long as we make out like bandits. And that is exactly what they are, bandits. They're stealing from the average taxpayer to make themselves rich. The owners don't live in Buffalo anymore. The players aren't from Buffalo and won't be in Buffalo as soon as their contracts are up. Do the Buffalo Bills really represent Buffalo? Do they represent Buffalo's work ethic? Do they represent their moral stances? What does the Bills being in Buffalo bring to the city of Buffalo? I would argue not $1.4 billion worth, but that's just me.